shit. Here we go again.
Oh, welcome out to this episode of Outbreak Gamers. I'm your host, WebDave, David Anthony, whatever you want to call me, big fat guy in a chair, whatever it takes. I am here with Silent Cypher. Sir, what's going on?
Hey man, it's good to see you. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. I am big fan of the Xbox International and all the craziness that you guys get into. And when I say crazy, you know what I mean.
Absolutely do. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. We appreciate the support.
Ah, no, man, it's cool. I like the premise, and it's a good to get people from from all around. And so with that said, you're from the U.S., right? So you
Correct. Yes, actually, I'm from Utah, so I'm towards the Middle West, Midwest.
well, your weather right now is probably not too bad, though, right?
It's you know what? Today was definitely still a little brisk,
Is it
but it's not bad. I think it was 20 degrees this morning when I woke up.
okay? So
Um,
that's cool. That's I get that.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely not shorts weather unless
Right,
you're inside, but it's not bad. It's not
right.
bad.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking it was actually colder than here. I'm in Kentucky, and today is actually a pretty good day. It's in the high 40s, low 50s.
Oh wow,
Little cloudy today.
I would take that.
I
My
know, I
goodness.
know, right? So usually we don't have our first snow until after Christmas, but we've already had two snowfalls this year, last month. It's like what?
Wow,
Before even Halloween, yeah. So, but then it went warm again, and only in Kentucky can you get every kind of weather in 1 week, and I
that's
mean
that.
every kind.
That's what I've seen. I've got a couple family members, in-laws out in that area,
Hmm.
and so yeah, I see a lot of it from them too. They're constantly posting it. It's just like Utah, where if you don't like the weather, wait for 5 or 10 minutes, and it'll change.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and we're off. Yeah, there you go. All right, dude. Well, good. Let's kind of get started with. I like to just kind of get a little bit to know about a person a little bit better by maybe knowing about maybe like what was your first job or your education or that kind of thing, and then what you've done, kind of jobs you've had in your career, because sometimes we get some surprising answers, and sometimes it's just a matter of it's a good starting point just to get the conversation rolling.
sure. Yeah. So one of my very first jobs, actually, the one that got me into the video game industry, was working with the now defunct Hollywood Video. I had actually applied for Game Crazy, which was their little separate game store side of things that they were doing. It was kind of their toe in the water on that side of the industry. And they didn't have any positions at the time. And so I took what I could get. I stayed over on the Hollywood Video side for a bit. Uh, did the movie thing for a while, enjoyed that for I think it was like about a year and a half. And then a position opened up over in the Game Crazy side. And so I jumped on as fast as possible. Obviously, I had networked with the guys that worked in there. We worked in tandem on a regular basis. And so we knew those guys really well. And so I got my opportunity to go over there. And so I ended up spending, I think it was the better part of about 5.5 years there. Um, but it's one of those jobs where it's like, there are a lot of things that happen in that type of job that stay with you over the years. Like there's things that happened at that job that I still bring up today of occurrences, like weird random oddities or just like the good old times. And I still keep in touch with those guys to this day. We actually still do like a game night thing every month, maybe every other month. And so built some really cool relationships on that side of things that stay with me today. But it was one of those opportunities to kind of dip my toe into the business, and it was a lot of fun. Like growing up as a kid, towards my later high school years, I was very much a fan of Kevin Smith movies. So Clerks, Dogma, Chasing Amy, all those, and Hollywood Video and Game Crazy were very much my Clerks, right? Like it
Hmm.
was it was my own version of Clerks, and it felt like it day in and day out. You dealt with some really weird people, You dealt with some really cool people, but there were definitely some moments that you scratch your head and you're like, is this really happening? Is someone out there pranking me? You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I actually did that, like I said, for about 5.5 years. It was in the early what it was shifting out of the PS2 and Xbox era into the 360. So I was there for the launch of the 360, the PS3, the Wii. It was chaos in those days, man. The supply constraints with those systems. I had actually just had a bunch of surgery done on my arm, so the console released at the time, and I couldn't play games very well.
Hmm.
So I actually fudged the system to an extent. Like if I was playing a first person shooter, I was wadding up a piece of paper towel and jamming it under the left stick, so I was constantly moving,
There
and
you go.
pistol gripping the other side of the controller so I could continue to play the games. Like I could actually still play Call of Duty. I wasn't great at it, but I
Right.
could enjoy it.
There you go. That's awesome.
But yeah, it was good. Got to experience the Red Ring of Death occurrences, which was a thing in itself. But working on that side of things actually got me into podcasting. Back in would have been 2006, maybe 2007. I had been spending some time with the guys from XBL Radio, which was one of the ones around back when Gamertag Radio was blowing up.
Mhm.
Danny Pena and all those guys as well.
Nice.
And then found that we were going to have our first kid towards 2009, and so all of a sudden the the irresponsible video game clerk side of things ended up having to shift to the side. I had to go get myself a job that could actually support the fam, and I kind of dropped out of the community for a while. It was a good while that I just kind of dropped off the radar and was just doing my own thing. And yeah, I mean, I know you had actually worked at GameStop as well, correct? You
Oh
were at
yeah, I
GameStop.
was 12 years a store manager. Yep.
Nice, nice. You know what I mean with those experiences at those stores.
Yes.
You run into all kinds. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, so once we found out we were having a kid, I actually shifted to Pepsi. I was slinging soda and doing the sales rep thing for a while. Did that for a few years, and then I had the opportunity to actually shift into a sales position at a local brewery. And so I ended up working the beer industry for about 7.5 years.
That's
Um,
nice.
yeah, it was cool. We did a lot of travel. We had a lot of really cool opportunities. We actually had a brewery location in Denver, Colorado. And so pretty much like I think it was 2 to 3 times a year we were going out there for staff meetings, sales meetings, beer events. And then I was doing stuff throughout the neighboring states as well. So I was traveling quite a bit doing beer events, sales, all sorts of stuff like that. You'll notice a common thread throughout pretty much all my work until now. I was in sales like nonstop throughout all of it. So yeah, I did that for a long while, and that actually led me up into the pandemic. It was
Mhm.
literally just before the pandemic I got out of that job, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall that maybe things were going to start to change. The company had had some struggles with some recalls and some issues
Mhm.
from their Denver location, and so I was like, all right, I need to look for something that's going to be more stable.
Mhm.
I always got to think about that if you have a family, right?
Right.
And so I got out of that job in September of 2019. And then the pandemic hit early that next year, of which I don't know if my job would have even existed at that
Right.
point. So it's like, some things happen for a reason. I
Yep.
think that was the perfect timing for that one for me to get out of it. And since then, I've bounced to a different couple different things, but just doing a supervisory role now, just supporting 26 to 28 people. So it's kind of a small group,
That's
but
nice though.
just yeah, no, it's a good change of pace from what I've done in the past. Um, but I actually, in the process and during the midst of the pandemic, I actually got back together with the guys that we were doing the podcast with back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started doing another one based on movies, beer, games, music, whatever. It was
Mm-hmm.
the pubcast, which only lasted, I think, again for like 6 months before the guys
Still,
got busy.
it's fun, man. It's all that matters.
Yeah, yeah. And it honestly, for all those years I had kind of been out of the game and I was watching everyone else doing podcasts and starting to see the scene blow up. I was really interested in getting back into it. And it was right around that time, actually, that I ran into Sourblow, Crazy Lui, Mr. Dark. I ran into all those guys and they approached it and were like, hey, would you want to do a podcast? And here we are, a year later,
Mm-hmm.
we're still rolling with it. So that's a little bit about me. That's probably a lot about me, but that's
Well, maybe we're going to find out a little bit more. That's
hopefully,
okay.
hopefully.
So let's talk about your gaming a little bit.
Sure.
Obviously, I mean, how did you get into gaming? Was it like, to me it was the 2600, obviously. That's where I got started. But I got started the day it came out because my parents got it for me. Oh, I'm old. But so what got you into gaming? Was it console or PC?
So
What?
so it was PC side of things
Mm-hmm.
and Atari, like Atari computer systems and stuff.
Nice.
I have 4 other siblings, and so I basically got to leech off of whatever tech and stuff that they had gotten when they were kids. And so obviously, like, I bounced into that. I was playing all those old games, playing Joust, all that stuff on the computer, and that was where I started with it. But I think when it really started to take off for me was my brother went to the military, and when he went to the military, he left his Nintendo, his Super Nintendo, and so I had his whole collection. I had the Mortal Kombats, I had Zombies Ate My Neighbors, I had Zelda, I had all of these games to jump into. And obviously it was a drastic change of pace from me playing something like Oregon Trail or Joust or something on the computer at the time. But I grew up very much kind of a blend, playing a bunch of Wolfenstein on the computer, Doom, stuff like that, and then shifting more to the console side with Mortal Kombat and Zombies Ate My Neighbors. That was kind of where I started with it ultimately.
That's cool. That's cool. So I guess that eventually got you into, I guess, some more of the console type things, like the more modern type consoles, right? So I'm obviously, if you're in a gaming podcast, you definitely, I guess, grew up with gaming, obviously. But I mean, you're in the current gen
Mhm.
consoles pretty much. So what I guess we were kind of talking beforehand about I guess like my name, obviously that's my gamer tag. So
Right.
like, is Silent Cipher your gamer tag?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
So you can actually find me pretty much everywhere as Silent Cipher at this point. I've tried to make it
nice.
easy to
Yeah,
find me for obviously content's sake.
yeah.
Uh, I actually started out on the Xbox as Blue Dude, which
I like it.
which it was a different time. I don't even
Hmm.
remember why I came up with that. I think it was tied to the Eiffel 65 song Blue.
Oh, oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
I
Good
forget
song.
though. Um, but at one point I did end up changing it. I think it was about a year and a half into being on Xbox
Hmm.
and shifted to Silent Cipher. And ever since then it's been Silent Cipher.
Nice.
Um, I didn't start on the Xbox side of things when I shifted into those consoles. I was actually more on the PlayStation side for years and years.
Cool.
Yeah, I ended up getting the PS1. I remember my parents decided that they were going to get me one for my birthday, and they also let me get Metal Gear Solid, which
Excellent.
set me off on the right path just to start off with, right? But
Definitely.
I remember that birthday very well. I remember getting the PlayStation, having Metal Gear Solid, and they bought me like a 5 pound bag of Mike and Ike's. And over the span of like a day to a day and a half, I was both done with the bag of Mike and Ike's and Metal Gear Solid. and
Holy
I was on to
snikes.
my second play.
And you were
So,
wired, yes.
I was so wired. It's back when I had infinite energy and could sit there and just play games for days, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
God bless the old days.
I know, I know. But yeah, so I did eventually shift from that side of things and went to the Xbox side eventually. I had really bad luck with the PS2 systems when
Mhm.
when I had them. I burnt through about 4 or 5 of them because of the
Ooh.
disk drive not
Mhm.
working. And then I had I was through the recall on the PS2 Slims when the power supplies on those were starting to catch fire.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I got I got to send that in. I got another one on that. And at one point, I was like, you know what? I, I wouldn't mind changing it up. And some of my friends had gotten me into LAN parties on Xbox,
Mhm.
getting me involved into like coming over and playing Halo and stuff
Oh, yeah.
into the wee hours.
Mhm.
So yeah, I shifted to that side of things. And obviously, at this point of time, if you look at most of my content and stuff, I kind of stayed on the Xbox side as time went on. It just kind of became a better area for me. I had a lot of games there that I was playing with my brother, that I was playing just with friends I'd grown up with, and that ecosystem has just kind of been where we all gravitated towards.
Mhm.
Um, for better or for worse, right?
Yeah.
Xbox One era being kind of a down note, being kind of rough for some folks for a little bit.
Right.
But you know, here we are, and we're actually, you know, we're starting to see the games come out. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited for what we've got coming. I don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
about you, but 2023 looks stacked.
It does look good. It looks good if you're in the Xbox.
Yes.
PlayStation, not quite so much. But then again, Xbox this year has been, whoo, as far as first party
Yes.
goes, non-existent. But
Yeah.
but yeah, but that's cycles happen and things happen, and the pandemic really put a wrinkle into a lot of things more than people want to, give it credit for, or type thing. But it
Yeah.
is what it is. We want what we want. We want games, so I get that.
Yeah.
But let's get into. I guess we talked about a little bit about your podcasting. So I guess let's get into how did the XBI Xbox International podcast, how did that how did that start for you? How did you get involved with that? And then what are you guys doing today?
Yeah. So, like I kind of mentioned, I ended up hearing from Crazy Louie, Mr. Joanna Dark, back in the day when he was still on the scene and able to do podcast stuff with us as well.
Mhm.
And then Sour, of course. I spent a lot of time for, like I said, a good couple of years, just kind of lurking in podcast rooms, just hanging
Mhm.
out. Like usually, I wouldn't be able to join in because I'd be at work, so I was just listening to different episodes and stuff. And eventually, I did get a job where I had more access and I could actually kind of, interact in the chats and stuff.
Mhm.
And that's actually where I ran into those guys. Just ran into them during while they were doing their shows or just hanging out in other chat rooms and stuff like that. And we just kind of hit it off really fast. Jumped together one day just to play some games, and it became very clear. I think that our personalities, while very different,
Mhm.
mesh pretty well.
Right.
And so very quick on, they actually approached me and were like, "Hey, what would you think about doing a podcast? We've been thinking about the possibility of ramping up another one." Because at that time, Sourblow had been working on his separate. He had one on the side that was an all Spanish speaking podcast
Mhm.
on Tuesdays. And so they were like, "Hey, we want to ramp another one up. We want to get some more people involved. Would you be interested?" And like I
Nice.
told you, I felt like I was very much out of the picture for a long time, and I was kind
Right.
of itching to get back into it
Oh,
anyways.
yeah.
And so it was just kind of the perfect timing where, my kids had grown up a bit. I had more flexibility with my schedule. I had more flexibility with being able to invest in getting some decent hardware, so
Mhm.
I could jump in and not sound like I was recording off of an Xbox Live headset. And so, we just we started off from there, and we started bouncing around with some of the different possibilities of what we could do with it, kind of the layout and structure. But one of the things, which of course comes at the very beginning, one of the first topics always, right, is what do we name this thing?
Mm-hmm.
And so we all kind of went off on our own ways for a couple days to just kind of think about like, okay, what could we call it? What would be a good one for this? And it popped into my mind the option of Xbox International because we've got Crazy in Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm.
We had Dark out there in Jersey. We had Sour in New York, me in Utah. Granted, it's not super international,
Wow.
but there is an international scheme to it.
Right.
And it worked well without being super muddled.
Mm-hmm.
XBI just kind of slides off the tongue.
Yeah.
And so I approached him with that, and we ended up going with it. It seemed like it was just kind of a favorite across some of the other options we pulled.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, that was as of recording right now with you, that's only a couple days off of 1 year for our anniversary, actually. So
Congratulations.
thank you. I feel bad because I haven't been able to be there at every episode, and we've had some technical issues here and there that we've learned to work around, obviously.
It
Such
happens.
is dealing with technology, right?
Yep.
But yeah, so that's where we're at. Obviously, like I was saying, we unfortunately ended up losing Dark at one point due to work schedules and stuff like that. Sometimes real life kicks in and you
It
can't
does.
do everything you want to do, right?
You're right. You're right. And I think, I mean, he still has the, I guess, the option when he's available to join your cast and jump on when it permits. So
Yeah, he shows around in areas still. It's always good to see his name pop up.
oh
It's
yeah,
just definitely one of those things, right, where it's like work and family come first. This
what
is
definitely.
very much our hobby thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm right there with you. Yep. Yes, most definitely. And I've interviewed Mr. Joanna Dark and Crazy Lou.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Crazy Lou, but boy, he can turn it on, and he
Yes.
definitely is very well self named.
Yes. Yes. I guess I didn't really know what I was getting into when I first met the guy and we started podcasting.
Yeah,
It became very clear very fast that the name matches up.
yeah.
He has calmed down in
Well, he's
certain
still
ways,
he's a good guy though. Good
but
heart.
he's a great
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
He's like a big kid, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And it's great though because the energy that he brings, like obviously I'm kind of a more subdued guy. Sour's kind of a quieter guy, and Crazy makes up for that.
Yeah,
so so it's
yeah.
good. We need that extra
So,
energy from
so
him.
he's like the balloon in the Macy's Day Parade, and you guys are holding the line, trying to keep him reined in. I
Yep.
got it.
But he keeps the production moving,
Yeah,
and
he
he keeps
does.
that energy out there for us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good.
Yeah. It's a good mix. It really is. Like I said, I've seen several of your shows. I have not seen them all, but I have seen several. And like I said, it's good. It's interesting. You guys are pretty topical, and I like how it's a good, pretty solid weekly show. And everybody has technical issues here and there.
Oh yeah.
It happens, but we keep going forward. And luckily, I mean, you guys are flexible a little bit. So if you
Mhm.
have, some issues one day, you can kind of work through them and, maybe still get the product out. So,
Yes.
so yeah. So, but it's a good show and everybody needs to get on there and like and subscribe that. I'm going to have it in the description of the show notes on all platforms, which will be on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and every
Right.
place else you can find a podcast because this will be both video and audio. And the links will be in the description, and also the Cypher Filters gamer tag will be right there for you guys to find real easy, so you can jump on play with them on multiple platforms.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, one of the folks I did not add in there, which I felt a little bad I didn't lump him into that spot,
That's right.
but yeah, so we actually did end up adding Plume Network as
Oh
one of
yes.
our hosts as well, which honestly for me, I don't know if I go back and I look at the episodes before we had him in there versus when we have him in there, I
Mhm.
feel like it's just more of a cohesive thing now that we've got him in there.
Yeah.
And it's been really good to have him. Like whether that ends up being a long-term thing or not, it's great to have him there with us for now. It's worked out really well, and I feel like it brings in some extra expertise and some extra eyes on the situation, right?
Oh,
Like some
yeah.
different thoughts. And
Yeah.
it's good. It's good to mix it up and get someone like that in there and see what other people's opinions are. Um, Obviously we're fairly set in our opinions,
Yeah.
so it's nice to have someone else come in there and maybe throw a wrench in maybe like our approach or our
Uh,
thoughts sometimes. It's
right,
been
right. And I've interviewed Tony on here, and he's a great guy. The Plume Network is a great, and I listen to him every day for
yeah,
daily aggregate of stories.
yeah, man.
And he's on it, and he doesn't mince words. He gets right in there. He's as how can I say? I mean, he's got his opinion, obviously, but he's not so opinionated that it detracts away from the facts, and that's what I like about
Right.
his delivery. And like I said, with your show now that he's on there as well too,
Yeah.
um, you know, he helps keep Smack Lou around. I'm just kidding. I'm
It's
just kidding, Lou.
it,
Crazy Lou, I love you, man.
it's good. It's good. It's like you said, obviously he has his opinion, but it doesn't detract from like the experience by any means.
Yeah.
Like the guy is very logical with his approach, and I appreciate that
Yeah.
as someone who jumps online and sometimes is like, okay, yeah, it's fun to see the drama, but at the same time, like, let's look at the facts and
Hmm.
actually break this down in a realistic way.
Hmm.
And what are the actual reasons for this?
Right.
It's good to see. And the dude is super consistent and
Oh yeah.
dedicated with his content. Like he's been doing this for 7, 8 years,
Yeah.
and it shows. I mean, he
Hmm.
knows his way around a podcast. He's very charismatic on a lot
Hmm.
of his content, which I think definitely benefits him in his following. So it's been good.
And he also helps to the international part, being he's
Yes,
a
he does.
Canadian guy. Yeah,
Yes.
there we go.
Yeah, he added an extra peg to that side of things. So now
That's
we're a
right.
little more international, which
There
is
you
great.
go. Oh goodness. Well, I'll make sure when I do post this on Twitter, I'm gonna tag all those guys in there too, so they'll all get to watch this
Awesome.
interview.
I appreciate it.
Oh no worries,
They
dude.
can they can tell me how much I just rambled on at you.
Oh, whatever. Not at all. Not
We
at
we like
all.
to razz each other.
Well, and I don't think you razzed. I think you more praised than razzed. So there you go. Well, let's kind of get into some of the kind of the topics of the day, as it were,
Sure.
because this is, oh man, what a time to be a gamer.
Yeah.
uh, where to start? I guess probably the most, because this will probably be topical for a little while.
Mhm.
Is Microsoft's acquisition of ABK. What are your feelings on that, and how do you think things are going?
Man, if you had asked me a week earlier, I
Hmm.
would have had a different response, that's for sure. Um, Things have changed a lot in the scenery recently, right? Like obviously a lot of things are at play at this point.
Yeah.
Um, Going into the Game Awards this week, it was quite a time. It felt
Hmm.
like almost every hour we were getting new content, new information from this whole thing.
Hmm.
Um, for me, it's I'm of two minds of it. Um, I understand. I mean, like I understand Sony not wanting this to go through, but at the same time, I'm very much one that's like, you know what? You've got so much content in your lineup. You have so many dormant titles that you could bring back, and you choose to sit here and power battle over an acquisition. Like personally for me, I see that and it just kind of looks a little tacky. It's like especially where Microsoft, from what we can tell, has come out and been pretty transparent about what their intent and intentions are for this situation. They've already proven that some of those concessions are coming out, right? Stuff like Call of Duty being on Nintendo for 10 years. They came out, they're like, hey, if you guys want this too, we will totally set that up with you. Like they have approached it as the good guy in this scenario. And
Mm-hmm.
granted, they aren't mincing words, right? But at the same time, they are very, very pointed with what their approach is. They're saying, hey, listen, these are your complaints. This is what you want. Let's do it. Let's get it going. Okay, now what's your next excuse? So it's interesting to see that power dynamic with them, especially since it's always been the cool guy Phil or Uncle Phil, where it's always been super mellow, and then suddenly the last few days, you've seen kind of a very uncharacteristic Phil kind of show up and be like, "Listen, facts are facts. Let's get this done with." Um, so it's I don't know where I stand with it at this point. I'm sure I'm like a lot of people out there. This has gone on for a long time. I really wish that everyone would just get over it and get it done with.
Yeah.
Just so us as gamers can see the benefit. It doesn't. I mean, on a content side of things, it's great for us. But as far as a gamer, as far as me seeing that content come out, we're hurting right now. This situation is only kind of getting painful to watch at this point because it feels like this could be squared away,
Mm,
and it's just there's a lot of rhetoric.
yeah.
So I don't know. I wish I could say that I was super confident that it was going to go through, but at the same time, I would be surprised if it didn't.
Right.
Uh, and like I've mentioned before, if this doesn't go through, I feel like this is going to be a scorched earth scenario. And I don't think Sony's going to appreciate how things go afterwards if this doesn't go through.
Right.
Even if it goes through, I think this changes their relationship.
Yeah. I think that's a done deal already. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think there's going to be the common courtesy tweets and stuff. Hey, congratulations on your game release, all those type of things. Like
Right.
I think some of that demeanor is going to go away inevitably because this whole situation has been a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. It has been a mess.
Yeah.
I think that the scorched earth part, maybe yes, maybe no. If they did a total scorched earth type effect, then Sony could be like, see what they're doing, see how they are, see how bad these people really are. We told you they were going to be bad. I'm just saying
Yes.
that's a possibility. And the
I
thing about and I'm sorry, the thing
Oh
about
no, you're good.
thanking people, like when they did, they've like congratulations on your new game. I think they should have said when they congratulated them on God of War coming out, congratulations on your exclusive game coming out to your exclusive console.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
me. But go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I definitely agree. Like obviously Sony could try and flip it around and be like, no, they are the bad guys. See, look at this.
Right.
I think the thing though is in this scenario right now, this is more of like a major gut punch and curb stomp, like buying that size of a company
Right.
versus doing it the way that Sony's doing it right now, or even like Embracer's doing it, where it's kind of death by a thousand cuts, right?
Mhm.
Smaller little things go through and get a lot less criticism
Mhm.
than buying an entire wing of development.
Yeah.
So I think if this goes through, like, yes, there will be room for that. And yes, they will take the opportunities to point out that, Microsoft's playing from their same playbook. Um, However, I think it'll fall on deaf ears in some scenarios. And
Right.
I also think if this fails, I don't know if Microsoft really cares what they think about it and what their opinion is on it. Like they're
Right.
still trying to target the idea of getting their content out to as many people possible. And so if Sony makes that a complication, I I mean, I could see both sides of it. They'll
Right.
throw a fit, but Microsoft will also be like, "Hey, we tried to be nice, and you chose not to play
Mhm.
friendly."
Mhm. Yeah, and to me, I think the biggest, no matter what they say, I mean,
Mm,
Call of Duty, yes, big part. Lots of other things, yes. I think it's the Game Pass scares Sony more than anything else because they know
yeah.
they are losing in that point. They've made it clear that they do not want to put their games in day and date. They just don't see the financial gain. But Microsoft has been doing it long enough now.
Hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of games that come out if you buy them um, on the Xbox and you pay for the Xbox version.
Hmm.
That includes the PC version.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, hello, who does that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and then day and
It's
date and Game Pass, amazing.
they've put a lot of money, a lot of financial backing into making Game Pass work.
Hmm.
You look at how it was the first couple of years, and obviously, as folks like us who were in probably day one, I assume you were probably right there pretty early too.
Mm,
We didn't
not as early
see.
as you think, to be honest with
No,
you.
no. Did you get in more recently?
I mean, I liked Game Pass. I mean, I knew about
Sure.
it. I thought, oh, it's cool, but I really didn't really get it, I guess, until I did the all access.
Oh,
I
yeah.
bought
Okay.
my system all access because $500 over 2 years, plus it includes Game Pass
Yes,
and no, no extra cost other than just the tax.
and it's actually
And
a better deal.
yeah, and my wife was like, "Okay, cool," because that
Yeah.
way I wasn't spending $1,000 to get the PlayStation and the Xbox. I was spending a 500 for one, and then a monthly fee for the other, and she seemed pretty cool with that. And then
Yeah.
once I realized what was in Game Pass, holy crap, this is pretty good because it
Yeah.
says over 100 games. Well, it is over 400 to 500, and they keep it pretty consistent. So, and then with the day and date of their new stuff. And
Mhm.
this year is, like you said, this year is gonna be fire.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just the stuff that we know of that's gonna go to Game Pass day one is gonna shake and rattle some things, right? Like, I mean, we don't have time for when they drop 4 or 5 games on us in a given month right now, right? We've got an example of, like, Callisto that just came out. We ended up having Need for Speed. What, we had a couple other ones that landed all at the exact same time. And it's like, that's hard to keep up on. Could you imagine what next year will be like if anything stays constant on its release date schedule going
Mhm.
into this next year? It is going to be an overlap of which we've not seen for a long time. Probably not since the 360 days, about 2 to 3 years into the release.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I for that, like when Game Pass first came out, obviously it wasn't that day and date. It wasn't as big of a thing yet because there just wasn't a lot there. And then once they passed that 100 games, you're like, okay, well, that's fine, but what are those games am I actually interested in? And then as
Mhm.
time went on, like yes, they have stuff come out of Game Pass, but I would argue that more goes in than comes out at this point.
Mhm.
And so it is, I know it's been said multiple times, but it is the best deal in gaming right now.
Most definitely, I'll have to agree with that for sure. That is definite. Silent Cypher, thank you so much for being here today, man. I think it's
Absolutely.
been great having you. And if you can, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit more about where they can find you, where they can find your channel. And then I have one more question I'm going to follow up on the end. Okay,
Okay.
which I ask everybody. But go ahead.
All right. Well, yeah. So, where you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Twitch, Instagram, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, TikTok more recently, which I've been tooling around with a little bit.
Nice.
All is Silent Cipher. Like I said, I try and make it easy so you can find me everywhere. A little
That
bit
makes the
easier
best.
now.
Yes.
Yes. You can find me on Wednesdays on the Xbox International podcast with my brothers Sourblow, Crazy Lui, and Plume. And on occasion, you can find me, out and about in chat rooms and stuff like that. I've actually started ramping up on working on some voiceover and voice work that I'm trying to get going. Sour's actually been very generous and done some different trailers and had me mess around with some voicing and stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I'm looking at trying to expand that out a little bit, upgrade some of my gear, and I'm looking at some different opportunities. So hopefully I'll have some more cool stuff coming soon.
That's fantastic. Well, like I was saying, everybody, make sure you like and subscribe their channel. And not only that, but when you hit the subscribe button, which it's free, doesn't cost anything to subscribe, hit the little bell icon and make sure that it's clicked, so that way you don't miss any episodes. In case you're like, busy one week and I was like, oh, there's a new episode, you can join. And if you don't get to watch it live, you can definitely watch the the aftermath. So that's what's always nice about it, being able to catch it whenever you want to. And of course, available, like you said, it's on multiple platforms as well. But definitely want to subscribe to YouTube. That's a big platform for them. And sometimes you don't see what Crazy Lou's up to on camera.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
It's a very visual podcast at this point in time.
most definitely. Well, I guess my kind of follow up question that I always ask everybody is kind of like, a game that we know is coming out, but is not out yet. And the reason I preface it that, because sometimes people have insight into stuff and I don't want to get anybody in trouble or anything.
Mhm.
But I like to say, so what game is coming out? And it can be more than one. I'll give you that too.
Okay.
That you're most looking forward to, that you're like, man, I can't wait for this game. This is the game for me.
That one gets tough. I
Mhm.
will say one, which obviously it's not been confirmed yet, but at this point we know something's coming up.
Mhm.
A new Metal Gear Solid.
Oh yeah.
For me as a fan of that series, I've been waiting and waiting, and I'm a little nervous, obviously, because Kojima's moved on. He's doing his own thing now.
Yeah.
But I want something, like, even if you're just doing a remaster of the original, or if you're doing a remaster of 1, 2, and 3 or something,
Mhm.
give it a little extra polish, release that. I don't mind. Like,
Nice.
us Metal Gear fans at this point are thirsty.
Yeah.
And we really want something to kind of parch. But besides that, I'm really looking forward to a couple like Stalker 2.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
that is something that I'm really, really excited for. And obviously, I know with the climate of everything going on globally, that's been delayed out a bit. Looking forward to when we see more on that game, because that thing looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
The original game was cool. It was a little rough. It wasn't as polished as some games when it first came out, but it was a cool experience and it was
Mhm.
creepy. And I'm looking forward to diving back into Chernobyl and experiencing all that again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. All right. Well, Silent Cypher, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it, your time, and thank you for being here, man. It's been
Oh,
awesome having you.
it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun with this, and I was excited that our schedules worked out, that we were able to make it work.
Me too. Me too. I'm glad. I'm glad. So, everybody, thank you for listening to us here. Thank you for joining us here on the show. We have plenty of other episodes too to join this foray. There's almost up to 50 episodes up in the cloud right now that you can check out, and more coming. I got some crazy ones coming, man. I let Lord Cognito and couple of them I can't even talk about yet that I haven't got approval to say yet. So there you go. Keep watch on that. So, but Sound Cypher, thank you so much for being here, and thanks for everybody for joining us here on Outbreak Gamers.
Game over.